Shout out to all my conscious writers out there. It's your boy Ian, aka the Writing Renegade, here today to talk about writing 10,000 hours to attain mastery in the skill of writing. So, have you ever heard of that idea before? That you need to do something for 10,000 hours before you become a master. But I am here to tell you that 10,000 hours is just the start. Because once you reach 10,000 hours at something, you become a quote unquote expert or master. But what are you going to do with that mastery? What are you going to do with that level of expertise? Because even with 10,000 hours of writing under your belt, you still have to spend thousands of hours writing a book. You still have to spend hundreds of hours revising and making sure everything makes sense. And before you self-publish or send it to your publisher, you have to do all of that. It's the same process when you suck and when you don't suck. And it takes roughly about the same amount of time. So getting to 10,000 hours shouldn't it be so that you can just be done and you get to 10,000 hours and you're a dope writer. It's a process of learning and there's going to be bumps along the way. So I am making a commitment to myself right now when we are starting this. It's almost like a new challenge that I am going to reset my writing amount. I would say that I've probably spent 10,000 hours writing in my lifetime for sure. And if I haven't, I think I've gone easily have gone over, but if I haven't, I'm very close. But I'm going to restart the clock right now and commit to doing 10,000 hours of deep work writing. And when I mean deep work, it's a whole hour of undistracted writing, maybe hour of undistracted writing, maybe multiple hours, but at least one. I count an hour of writing where I just write for an hour. There's little to no distractions, maybe a bathroom break, maybe to get some water, an hour. And when I do that, I make a tick on a sheet of paper and then I transfer that to Google Docs where I have a master list of the hours that I've written. So I want to do 10,000 hours of that because I feel like after everything I've done already, that if I put another 10,000 hours in, I will be an expert writer. I will be someone who can write books that murder, books that people won't know what to do with. Because if I write 6 hours a day, like I said, so if we are looking at that number of if you write 6 hours a day, you should write about 2,200 hours a year. So that takes you about 4.5 years to become a master. In that 4.5 years, if I'm writing 6 hours a day, I should be able to release at least 2 books a year, maybe 3. And so after 4 years, for sure, most of you guys out there, unless you're writing really long stuff or really complicated stuff, can get 10 books out in the next 5 years and then have a mastery, and that will give you the leverage. Okay, so listen to this. If you're starting from zero, let's say you are just getting into writing. If you're just starting at zero, over the next 5 years, if you dedicate 6 hours a day, you will be able to release 10 books. And if you market it right or, get it polished enough to send to a publisher who will take it, then you will set a nice foundation. You will have a follower, some followers and some readers and people who enjoy your work and be able to launch to those readers if you're self-publishing. You'll have publishing houses who want to get more of your work if you're selling well. So during this 5 years, it's not just solitude completely. You could be practicing and it can go a lot of different ways. And I would also like to talk about that. So I don't think that you should be writing all the time though, especially if it's your first 10,000 hours. There should still be a lot of play on the page. There should be a lot of imaginative writing and journaling. And when we talk about 10,000 hours, I'm not sequestering that to one style of writing. Like I'm just going to write 10,000 hours of fiction or 10,000 hours of poetry. No, I'm going to spend 10,000 hours writing in general. And I think that authors make the mistake a lot of times thinking that they can't write poetry, but they can do academic work, or everyone can write poetry. Anyone can write research papers. Anyone can write a blog or a novel. You just have to put the time in and get some of the fundamentals down and tailor it to yourself. That you have your own weaknesses, and some of them are more upfront. Like if you're very logical or don't feel that creative, you're going to have some weaknesses up front, but you'll be able to maybe get rid of some of those in revising. That analytical logical brain or that uncreative brain could actually pay a lot of dividends in the writing part or the revising part, because you could really analyze what's going on and say, I need to ramp this up right here. This looks like it needs to get ramped up. So that's another thing, everybody, that you should be able to write in any format, and you should be practicing in those 10,000 hours, at least a little bit of everything. 5 years from now, you should have some poems done and a memoir done. Not a full memoir, but just some accounts of your life, a short story, a novel, a poetry book, if I haven't already said that, a research book, nonfiction book about a topic that you really care about. You can do all of those different things, and all of those grant a certain type of experience, especially if you go about the whole process in a similar way. If you go about the process in a flowing way, a way that elevates creativity and playfulness and being spontaneous on the page. For instance, I do like 90 minutes to 2 hours a day of just writing stuff for stories or poems. That's mostly just stream of consciousness writing. It's not even stuff that's like, then if I'm doing 6 hours a day, right? 2 of those hours is just complete like creativity, imagination, just writing and thinking and feeling and moving through stories or poems or through research, right? And just getting ideas out. And the other time is maybe a little bit more technical. Some of the time, like if I could structure a day, I would spend 2 hours playing, 1 hour imitating, and 3 hours writing. I feel like that, especially if you're not trying to get something done, if you're trying to get good and like really connect with your writing and really like make a splash and like keep improving, try out that schedule. Even though, you shouldn't ever take someone else's schedule because you have to find your own, but 2/6 play, 1/6 imitation. And what I mean by imitation is I will find passages in books that I like and then write a totally different story or something similar, but in the same exact voice. And that just tunes my muscles. It's like you're prepping. It's like I'm doing little, like I'm watching like Kobe play and I'm in the gym and I'm like practicing on something like, oh, that's what he's doing. Okay. And that's what I feel like it trains you. And like I said, you don't have to do that all the time, but if you could get in a rhythm and do it for a couple months, especially if you're writing a certain type of book, or in the future you're going to, like for me, it's eco poetry. I am imitating a lot of eco poetry right now, and I'm just churning through it every single day. And it depends. Either I like to do it. I never really like to do it first. Doing it first kind of ruins the vibe. I like to do it immediately after I hit a slump after an hour or two, or at the very end of the day, just for fun, just to be messing around. But with the imitation, you can be very playful. Don't take it that seriously. Like try as hard as you can to, imitate, but, take some risks, say some weird things. Like sometimes you got to make some jokes. You got to have some fun in here. You can delete it all later. So that is my thoughts on the 10,000 hours of writing, that no matter where you're at, that you should restart your clock right now and keep a calendar, a deep work, tally list, and see that process of getting to 10,000. Use that to motivate you. Use that to motivate you to write more every day. Some days you could be writing 10 or 12 hours and just be going like a maniac and putting that time in so that you can get it done. So, everybody, that is all. Thank you guys. Check out some of my other videos about reading 200 books a year. Peace.